Yo, what is up, guys? I made a video or part one to this, and so I'll just get right into it. The part one is me detailing how to get into semi truck driving, or better yet, how to get your certification that qualifies you for a lot of these transportation, long haul, big vehicle. Well, actually, it's not necessarily big vehicle as much as it is over a certain weight. You have to have a certification to drive certain vehicles above a certain weight class. So I was in the first video, I was kind of pressed for time. I was on my way to the gym, and so I could only say certain parts. And when I was at the gym, I realized that there was a few things that I had forgotten to discuss that is important to discuss. So, and on this video, I also want to detail just in general how to go about really getting any type of certification, especially when it comes to blue collar. Now, a disclaimer is that the only blue collar job that I have done is semi truck driving, but man, people driving are absolutely terrible, bro. When on a daily basis, this is maybe I should do a separate rant on this, but on a daily basis, I'm reminded how bad the average driver is and how selfish. If you want to see how selfish humanity is, just go out and drive, and you'll see it in about 2 seconds. But so the only blue collar job that I have done is semi truck driving. Now, with that said, I do have a broader knowledge of how to go about this just from my own professional experience, having a master's degree, the reason why I say that is just to say that getting any sort of certification has very similar things across the board that apply, okay? There's certain steps that apply across the board. Also, one of my very first full-time jobs after I got my bachelor's degree, I worked as a caseload manager working with adults who were disenfranchised, for lack of a better term, kind of from rough areas that needed training in order to and assistance in order to attain employment. Now, I know a lot of you folks who may be more conservative minded, and I think this is more the case in a neoconservative minded worldview, where it's where the mindset is you have to grab your bootstraps and go, or whatever the saying is for that. And while I agree on a certain level, the fact is, and this is the Christian in me, the more paleo-conservative, which is there's always going to be a certain segment of the population that requires extra assistance. Really, the question comes down to, how do you go about that? Do you go about it through more religious means? Do you throw money at the problem vis-a-vis the government? And kind of what is the curriculum in which you teach, and kind of the worldview that you go about it, and how you approach through the lens of the situation, through the lens of your worldview. So, and originally when I was a caseload manager, when I first started, the goal was there was a teaching program that was assigned to the broader program that helped these individuals attain their GED or high school diploma if they wanted to do so. So how it kind of looked was, on a broader level, a lot of the individuals who attended this program would attend the school program, but also attend some of the workshops on employment. It was kind of a halvesy situation. Not everybody who attended did the high school program or GED program, but a lot did. Towards the end of my time there, the director transitioned it to more of a, let's get these young adults here and give them the certifications towards attaining some sort of full-time employment. And to tell you the truth, I actually did think that that was smarter, because a lot of resources were being devoted and a lot of money was being devoted to the academic aspect of it. But the reality is that really there's only a certain segment of the workforce that requires high school, bachelor's, master's, more of an educational background thing, okay? Not every single workforce or type of workforce requires any sort of educational background outside of that specific area of expertise. For example, welding or semi-truck driver. You don't need a high school diploma to be a semi-truck driver, okay? So, and the other thing is that ultimately, if these kids are not going to go on to get their bachelor's degree or master's degree, then the GED was only going to do so much good. And I remember, for me personally, in my naivete, I used my resources and connections from the schools that I went to, because the president of the school I knew personally from the son of the president being on my basketball team in high school. And in my naive kind of, not this part wasn't naive, the more conservative minded approach. Where I chose not, sorry guys, I had to put it down for a second, where I chose not to see it as a more kind of racially lined situation where, this individual is black, therefore, they've had it rough, and therefore they could never go to school because the system is so against them, and they dare not ever dream of going to college, and really allowing this kind of racially focused narrative, this victim backed narrative, to dictate how they viewed these mostly minority individuals. I made a point to say, no, that is not the case. I'm going to show you that they have every opportunity that everybody else does, and that, the white man does not care about anybody's race or anything like that. And I am going to use my connections and my resources to gladly show them colleges and show them that anybody can achieve their goal of going to school if they have the desire to do so. I know I always do this, guys. I always get sidetracked and talk about other things. But so I made a point to show these kids and take them on college tours. But, and this is just my experience, 9 times out of 10, it was to no avail. And I realized very quickly, not that the more liberal-minded mindset was correct, but that there is something to be said about why overall it takes so much time to change certain issues in society, because mediocrity breeds mediocrity. And there are in society, there's always certain groups that kind of develop this narrative of why they are not being successful. And by and large, there are traits always that lend themselves to success and achieving certain goals. And I saw with these young adults very quickly that they had bought into this narrative so heavily that it was going to take far more than what I could give them to break themselves of this uh, of this mindset, of this worldview, and they were never able to uh, break free from it and say, you know what, this guy's right. If I want to do it, I can do it. And so it really showed to me how prevalent it is in their community, sadly. And I really did my best, but it was to no avail. But the point is, what got me started on this is that the school went more towards a blue collar, uh, learning more labor specific construction laborer. To this day, I don't know the difference between a laborer and a construction worker. Maybe it's the same thing. Maybe a laborer is somebody who works on a construction site. But we would get them certifications like a forklift certification, being the flag or the sign holder on construction sites, and really just give them those certifications so they could go and be a part of a job site as soon as possible, which I really did think was a smart thing. And the program ended up hiring a guy who had been working in construction for a long, long time, and teaching them these skills. And they were much more receptive to this. I would say that the success rate was still maybe like 10 to 20%, if that. But there were people who were successful. I mean, I remember one time there was a guy who had gone through the program before I had gotten there, and he shared the amount of money that he was making, and I was stunned because I had been brought up in the worldview of, you got to go to college. College is the way to make money, and that's the most important thing, is to have a job that people are like, oh wow, you have that sort of job. And listen, guys, I fell victim to that myself. Okay, I'm not saying I believe college is bad per se, but I also don't think it's the end all be all that our parents and grandparents taught us to believe, or a lot of us. In the end, what you are trying to do when you are working is two things. One, you are trying to have some modicum of happiness doing something that you actually at the very least slightly enjoy. But then again, work is still work, irregardless. And two, you're trying to make money. And that is the main goal that you're trying to do, is you're trying to make money. And so not everybody has to go to school. Okay. And this guy told me how much money he was making. And I was stunned because this was a kid who went in to a program where I was providing him assistance and sharing my expertise with him and knowledge. And this kid wasn't like all of a sudden more intelligent or better skilled or anything like that than me. It's just he lucked into meeting the correct people to put him into a career path that had lent itself to making more money. And so I was stunned when this guy, it was a huge red pill moment for me when I found out that this guy, how much money he was making. He was making more money than me. Now I was still very young myself, as I still am, but so I say all of that to say that I have been around blue collar positions in some form or another, either me doing it myself or assisting people towards getting into that field. So at the very least, I know what it requires to get the skills and certifications to be in that field. So going back to the semi truck driving, the one thing I left out was the testing process. Okay. So how one actually gets their Class A license. So I did share in part one the aspect of going to these big companies. They do have schools where they will pay for you to attend their training process as long as you stay at their company for a certain period of time, or else you have to pay that money back. So I'll just uh, I'll just talk about that part. Okay, so if you go to a a school that is sponsored or run by a big carrier, like one of the big trucking companies. Okay, you see Swift, you see CR England, you see there's many more. Okay, there's like at least five major carriers that are national brands. Okay, and it's all across the country. It's not just located in one state. These are national brands. If you go to one of their schools that teaches you, and honestly, it's not just the big carriers that do this, it's also some of the smaller carriers, because in the end, how they look at it is, I am investing in this person to end up coming to work for us with their expertise. Okay. It's the whole concept of a paid internship. That's essentially what it is. So you go to the school, and it's like, for me, it was a 2 week long process. For some, it's more because they fail tests, or their attendance is bad and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. If you don't live in the city, a lot of places, and the place I went to, will literally pay for your lodging. Okay. And we stayed in a hotel room, and I was a roomie with this like big 200 plus pound, not muscle, but uh, black guy who all night long would be on the phone with his fucking girlfriend. Okay. It was so bad to where, and this guy snored like crazy. And I'm somebody who cannot sleep with snoring. I had to just go out to my car and sleep sometimes because I could not handle it. So, anyways, that's about as long as it takes, is about 2 weeks. And they will literally take you out in one of their practice semi trucks. And now, granted, you're not going to get a lot of time because they're trying to have as many people pass as possible. There was like 50 people who were in the training for the time frame I was in. There was like 50 plus people that were in it. Okay, so you're only going to get so much practice that they can give you, because everybody else has to get practice too. And then they will go over the test questions and literally give you the answers for the test questions that are likely to be asked on the Class A test. Okay. Now, they don't know for sure what set of questions you are specifically going to get, because it's shuffled and it's not the same every single time. But they know, generally speaking, all the possible questions